19 bookings, a full-on brawl, players sprinting off the bench to fight, and the GOAT cussing out opponents on live TV. And all of it happened on the 9th of December 2022 in a World Cup quarter-final between Argentina and the Netherlands. A match so aggressive, so chaotic, so spiteful, it was instantly branded the Battle of Lucale. But here's what most people don't realize. This wasn't just emotion, or rivalry, or World Cup pressure exploding. This war wasn't triggered by a goal, a foul, or a bad tackle. In the final minutes of the game, Spanish referee Antonio Mateu Lahoz made a decision so outrageous, so unnecessary, that the single choice didn't just extend the game, it detonated it. This is the story of how one referee's mistake created the most violent football match in history. Before the chaos, before Antonio Mateu Lahoz turned a World Cup quarter-final into a circus, you have to understand one thing: Argentina versus Netherlands is never a calm meeting. Every time they collide, they reopen old wounds. Every time they share a pitch. Their story dates back to the 1970s. In 1974, they met in the group stage of the competition, two giants fighting for early dominance. In 1978, they met again in the final, a match loaded with controversy and political pressure because Argentina were hosting. That final finished 3-1. The Netherlands lost again, and many Dutch fans believed they were robbed of a world title they deserved. According to them, Argentina didn't just win the World Cup, they stole it. That was the beginning of hate. Fast forward to 1998, and the Dutch got their revenge in the most disrespectful way possible. A 90th minute winner from Dennis Bergkamp, a goal so ridiculous that people still watch it today just to feel something. The Argentines never forgave it. Then came 2014, a semi-final loaded with stars, tension, and anxiety. That time, it went to a penalty shootout. Argentina won, and the Netherlands went home again with heartbreak in their luggage. So, by the time 2022 came around, this wasn't football history alone. This was a catalogue of pain and a theme of revenge. And of course, there was Louis van Gaal, the manager who led the Dutch in 2014, the same man who lost that semi-final, retired, then came back for one last dance. He returned for one reason: revenge. His team arrived in Qatar unbeaten in 19 games, top of their group, confident, cocky, and ready to prove a point. They didn't just come to win, they came to embarrass Argentina on the biggest stage possible. Maybe that confidence got to their heads, because before the match, Van Gaal dropped something that shook Argentina to its core. When asked about Messi, he said the quiet part out loud: "We have a score to settle. Lionel Messi is the weak link." Now, in most cases, that would just be football talk, a little mind game. But not with Argentina, not with Messi on a mission for the one trophy that has always eluded him. The Argentine dressing room doesn't joke about their captain. You insult him, you insult every person in that shirt. From that moment, the match wasn't just tactical, no one knew it yet. But we were about to witness the most violent match in World Cup history. For the first few minutes, the game tried to lie to us. It looked normal. Argentina and the Netherlands lined up like two teams that respected each other. But the tension was obvious from the first whistle. Every pass felt heavy. Every tackle carried a little extra force. Nobody wanted to be the first to lose their nerve, but nobody was relaxed either. The opening 10 minutes were cagey. Both sides had moments, but they defended like their lives depended on it. Messi drifted inside early, trying to find pockets of space, but the Dutch midfield stayed compact. In the 10th minute, Messi slipped a pass out wide to Acuna, who sent a cross into the box, but there was nobody there to finish it. A few minutes later, Steven Bergwijn was played through for the Netherlands, but Emiliano Martinez rushed off his line and smothered the danger before it could turn into anything serious. It felt like a chess match, but a chess match where both players were already angry. By the 22nd minute, Messi tried his luck from outside the box. The shot sailed wide. Shortly after, Bergwijn responded with an effort of his own, also missing the target. There was still nothing between the teams. 30 minutes in, the score was 0-0, and if you were just tuning in, you might have wondered what all the hype was about. But anyone who knew this rivalry understood what was happening. This was the calm before the storm, because matches like this don't explode out of nowhere. They simmer, they wait, and everyone watching could feel that it would take something special to break the deadlock. That something arrived in the 35th minute. Messi picked up the ball and did what Messi does. He scanned the pitch, waited half a second longer than anyone else would dare to, and then threaded a pass straight through the Dutch defence. It wasn't just a good pass, it was surgical. Nahuel Molina arrived on the end of it and finished calmly. Argentina were 1-0 up. Just like that. The game changed. Messi had just produced one of the most outrageous assists of the tournament. Argentina were in front, and for a brief moment, everything settled again. The Dutch regrouped. Argentina dropped a little deeper. The match looked peaceful. We had only seen one yellow card so far, and it hadn't even been issued to a player. It went to Argentina's assistant coach, Walter Samuel. If you were keeping score, you might have thought this whole most violent match in history thing was being massively exaggerated. But then, just minutes before half-time, the players decided to correct that misunderstanding. In the 43rd minute, Acuna caught Dumfries late. It wasn't a leg breaker, but it was unnecessary. Jurriën Timber didn't like it. He reacted instantly, shoving Acuna to the ground. Mateo Lahoz had no hesitation. Yellow card for Timber. Message sent. 3 minutes later, Christian Romero handled the ball blatantly. Another yellow. The Netherlands won a free kick in a dangerous position, but Martinez dealt with it comfortably. He didn't know it yet, but he would soon be asked to deal with something far more serious. The cards started to fly now. Wout Weghorst, who wasn't even on the pitch yet, somehow managed to get himself booked while sitting on the bench. A pointless yellow card, completely unnecessary. Little did they know, that same man was about to play a major role in the chaos to come. In the space of 5 minutes, we went from almost no bookings to 4. Everyone thought half-time would cool things down, players would catch their breath, tempers would settle, logic would return. Instead, half-time only made things worse. The Netherlands came out for the second half breathing fire. They were desperate, they pressed harder, tackles became more aggressive, every duel felt personal. The violence didn't just continue, it intensified. Early in the half, Dumfries and Van Dijk combined to bring Messi down just outside the box. Messi stepped up, looking to punish them, but his shot scraped the crossbar. The warning was clear. Then came the 71st minute. Acuna was brought down by Dumfries at the edge of the box. Mateo Lahoz pointed to the spot. Penalty for Argentina. Messi stepped up and converted calmly. 2-0 Argentina. Game over? Not even close. After celebrating with his teammates, Messi turned toward the Dutch bench and cupped his ears in Louis van Gaal's direction. That celebration wasn't random. It carried history. It carried anger. It carried everything that had been said before kickoff. Messi thought he had finished the job. What he didn't realize was that he had just poked the bear, because from that moment on, this match stopped pretending to be calm, and the referee was about to lose control. From the moment Messi cupped his ears toward the Dutch bench, the match stopped being about football. That celebration didn't just provoke the Netherlands, it legitimized everything they were already feeling. The anger, the resentment, the belief that Argentina weren't just trying to beat them, but humiliate them. Louis van Gaal reacted instantly. He abandoned subtlety. He abandoned build-up. He abandoned balance. Memphis Depay came off. Wout Weghorst came on. A 6'6" striker whose only job was to turn chaos into opportunity. But before Weghorst could even make his presence felt, something else happened. Something small, but revealing. A cross was sent into the Argentine box. Emiliano Martinez came out and claimed it cleanly. Luuk de Jong went down under pressure. Nothing serious, nothing unusual. But suddenly players surrounded each other. Words were exchanged. Hands were raised. Mateo Lahoz stepped in and booked both Memphis Depay and Lisandro Martinez. 2 more yellow cards. At this point, the referee wasn't calming anything down. He was feeding it. Every whistle felt delayed. Every decision felt theatrical. Lahoz's body language screamed authority, but his control was already slipping. And then Weghorst finally entered the game. Van Gaal's instructions were simple. Forget the midfield, forget possession, just cross the ball. Over and over again. Hit the giant, let physics do the rest. It worked. In the 83rd minute, a cross came in from Berghuis. Weghorst rose above everyone and headed the ball into the net. 2-1. Now the game was alive again, and that's when the real battle started. The Netherlands pushed forward relentlessly. Argentina panicked. Every clearance was rushed. Every tackle was late. The pressure crushed the pitch inward. In the 85th minute, Berghuis smashed the side netting. Moments later, he clattered into Messi at the center of the pitch and picked up another yellow card. By now, Mateo Lahoz was everywhere. Whistle after whistle, lecture after lecture, card after card, but But the most explosive moment was still waiting. In the 88th minute, Leandro Paredes committed a foul near the touchline. It wasn't horrific, but what happened next changed everything. Paredes stood up and absolutely smashed the ball straight into the Dutch bench. That was the spark. The Netherlands bench erupted. Players sprinted onto the pitch. Argentina players rushed to defend their teammate. Staff members got involved. Shoving turned into grabbing. Grabbing turned into a full-blown brawl. This wasn't a disagreement anymore. This was war. Players fell to the ground, arms were flailing, bodies collided. The referee desperately tried to regain control as yellow cards flew in every direction. Paredes was booked. Lionel Scaloni was booked. The tension inside the stadium became unbearable. This was no longer a football match being officiated. It was a crisis being managed. Mateu Lahoz eventually restored some order, but the damage was done. The temperature was out of control. Players were shaking with adrenaline. The crowd was roaring, and the clock was ticking toward full time. Then the board went up, 10 minutes of added time, and in that moment, everything changed. Because this wasn't a tired match being extended for fairness. This was a volatile match being stretched beyond its breaking point. Lahoz hadn't just added time, he had added fuel, and the explosion was inevitable. When the fourth official raised the board and 10 minutes of added time appeared, nobody in Lucale was thinking about fairness. They were thinking, why? Yes, the World Cup had become famous for long stoppage time. Yes, there had been interruptions. Yes, there had been VAR checks and confrontations. But this wasn't a normal match anymore. This was a game already hanging by a thread, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and Mateu Lahoz chose to stretch it. Argentina were furious. The Netherlands were energized. The crowd sensed blood. From that moment on, the referee stopped being a background figure. He became the center of gravity. Almost immediately, the whistles began to feel one-sided. Every Argentine attempt to slow the game was punished. Every Dutch collision was waved on. Lahoz wasn't just officiating anymore, he was managing narratives, demanding the game continue at all costs. In stoppage time, Nicolas Otamendi was booked, then Lionel Messi was booked too. The captain, the calm center of Argentina's chaos, finally snapped. He argued, he gestured, he stared down the referee. But Lahoz didn't de-escalate. He doubled down. The Netherlands pushed higher. Cross after cross rained into the Argentine box. The ball barely left their half. Argentina were no longer defending a lead. They were surviving an extension that felt invented. The clock kept moving. The crowd kept rising. And the referee kept letting it go. Then, in the very last minute of added time, Lahoz awarded the Netherlands a free kick just outside the Argentine box. The stadium froze. Everyone expected one thing: blast the ball and pray. Instead, the Netherlands did something far crueler. Toen Koopmeiners tapped the free kick sideways. The Argentine wall reacted a second too late, and Wout Weghorst, the same man Van Gaal had thrown on to manufacture chaos, finished calmly, 2-2. Lucale exploded, not just in celebration, in disbelief, in rage, in shock. Argentina collapsed to the ground. Messi stood motionless. The Dutch sprinted toward their bench. The referee blew for full time seconds later, as if the 10 minutes had suddenly run out of purpose. And just like that, the match Lahoz had extended beyond control was tied. But instead of reflection, instead of restraint, instead of recognizing the fire he had helped ignite, Mateu Lahoz sent the game into extra time. And somehow, things got worse. From minute 90 to 120, it no longer felt like both teams were being officiated under the same rulebook. Argentina were whistled for every touch, every tackle, every delay. The Netherlands were allowed to press, collide, argue, and provoke. 2 more yellow cards were shown. Arguments broke out constantly. Players were no longer asking for decisions, they were demanding explanations. Extra time should slow a game down. This one felt like it was being forced forward. Argentina created the better chances. Lautaro Martinez shot wide. Messi fired just past the post. Enzo Fernandez rattled the woodwork seconds before the final whistle. But the tension never left. Every stoppage felt theatrical. Every whistle felt loaded. Mateu Lahoz had lost the trust of both sides. The worst thing that can happen to a referee in a high-stakes match. When the whistle finally blew to end extra time, nobody felt relief. They felt dread. Because penalties were coming. And after everything we had just witnessed, the cards, the brawls, the 10-minute stoppage, the uneven control, there was no way this night was ending quietly. The referee hadn't just failed to calm the storm. He had carried it all the way to the edge, and penalties were waiting. By the time the match reached penalties, football had already stopped feeling like football. The players weren't thinking about technique anymore. They weren't thinking about placement, run-ups, or angles. They were thinking about survival. 120 minutes of chaos, uneven control, relentless whistles, and emotional whiplash had drained both teams. Legs were heavy, minds were frayed, tempers were still burning beneath the surface, and standing in the middle of it all, calm and distant, was Mateu Lahoz. This shootout didn't begin with a whistle. It began with tension already stretched to its limit. Argentina gathered around Emiliano Martinez, a goalkeeper who thrived in disorder. The Netherlands stood apart, tight-lipped, visibly irritated, still replaying the free kick that had forced them here in the first place. Lahoz took his time. He walked. He spoke. He gestured. Every pause felt deliberate. Every delay felt loaded. And Martinez noticed. From the very first Dutch penalty, he started playing a different game. He spoke. He stared. He smiled. He waited. He bent the rules without breaking them, exactly the way the referee had done all night. The first Dutch penalty was saved. The second followed. Argentina converted both of theirs. Suddenly, the shootout had a rhythm, and it wasn't a fair one. It was psychological, chaotic, uneven, just like the match. When Enzo Fernandez missed Argentina's third penalty, the Netherlands briefly felt hope again, but even that moment didn't belong to them for long. Lautaro Martinez stepped up with the chance to end it, and buried it. Argentina won, but instead of release, the night demanded one final eruption. As Lautaro ran away celebrating, Denzel Dumfries tried to get into his head. Words were exchanged, gestures followed. Lahoz intervened, not to calm, but to punish. 2 yellow cards. In the space of 1 minute, a red card. During a penalty shootout, the booking tally hit 19, a World Cup record. It was absurd. It was unnecessary. It was the perfect ending to a match that had lost all sense of proportion. And still, it wasn't over. As Argentina celebrated, Otamendi cupped his ears toward the Dutch players. Messi turned toward Van Gaal and exchanged heated words. Emiliano Martinez cursed toward the Netherlands bench, shouting into live microphones. Then, during Messi's post-match interview, the final image of the night arrived. Wout Weghorst stood nearby. Messi noticed him, and without hesitation, without filtering, without caring about cameras or consequences, the greatest player of his generation snapped. "What are you looking at, fool?" The moment went viral instantly. This was never just a football match. This is what happens when tension is stretched too far, when authority becomes performance, when control is replaced with ego. Mateu Lahoz didn't cause the rivalry. He didn't create the emotion. He didn't invent hatred. But on that night in Lucale, with 10 unnecessary minutes, with uneven whistles, with constant escalation, and football paid the price. Because if this match taught us anything, it's this. The most violent games aren't born from bad tackles. They're born when the person meant to calm the chaos decides to become part of it. When the noise finally died down in Lucale, when the players disappeared into tunnels and the lights dimmed, one figure was left standing in the middle of the wreckage. Antonio Mateu Lahoz. The scoreboard would say Argentina won on penalties. History would record Messi advancing. FIFA would archive the match as a classic. But everyone who watched it live knew the truth. 19 bookings. A bench-clearing brawl. A red card during a penalty shootout. The greatest player in football swearing on live television. This wasn't a drama. This was a collapse. And at the center of it was the man whose job was to prevent exactly this outcome. In the days that followed, the criticism came from everywhere. Former players, referees, pundits, fans from both sides, not because Lahoz favored one team, but because he lost everyone. FIFA never officially admitted fault. They rarely do. But actions speak louder than statements. Mateu Lahoz never refereed another match at the 2022 World Cup. Not the semi-finals, not the final, nothing. For a referee with over a decade of elite experience, that silence was deafening. This was supposed to be his final World Cup. Instead, it became his epitaph. The man known for control had overseen the most uncontrollable match of the tournament. And that's the real lesson of the Battle of Lucale. This wasn't the most violent football match in history, because players lost their heads. Players lose their heads all the time. It wasn't because of rivalry, or Messi, or Van Gaal, or penalties. It became violent because the authority meant to absorb tension reflected it back. The Battle of Lucale will always be remembered for the bookings, the brawl, the insults, and the madness. But years from now, when the clips fade and the outrage softens, one truth will remain. This wasn't a match that lost control on its own. It was pushed there because sometimes the most violent moments in football aren't created by tackles, they're created by the whistle. And on December 9th, 2022, one referee blew it too many times. If one referee decision could turn a World Cup quarter-final into war, imagine what happens when hatred is built over decades. Because the most violent match in football history didn't start in Lucale. It started years earlier, in a Clásico so brutal, so personal, it defined the hostility between Barcelona and Real Madrid forever. That story is next. Click the video on screen.